Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. On behalf of Major General Richard A. Harrison, Commanding General, 32nd Army Air Missile Defense Command, welcome to today's ceremony. Today, we gather to observe the frocking promotion of Colonel Glenn Henke to the rank of Brigadier General. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the arrival of the official party, the invocation given by Chaplain Turpin, and the playing of our national anthem.
I invite you to bow your heads as I pray. Lord God, we thank you for the countless blessings you have showered on our nation. Thank you for placing leaders before us today with great vision. We stand here today to celebrate Colonel Glenn Henke's promotion to Brigadier General. For many years, he and his family have served us with great distinction. For this, we are forever grateful. We pray your blessing upon him and his family and all the air defenders, Lord, especially those deployed. May your hand of protection be upon them, and may our families be in good health always. Now may the heart of heaven pierce the heart of the branch. In your holy name I pray. Amen.
Please be seated. At this time, First Lieutenant Emily Eckert from the Fort Sill Salute Battery is presenting a bouquet of yellow roses to Colonel Henke's wife, Catherine, and a single yellow rose will be presented to his daughter, Sarah. At this time, we'd like to extend a warm welcome to the following distinguished guests. Mr. Michael Brown, Civilian Aide to the Secretary of the Army, Oklahoma South. Command Sergeant Major Neil Sartain, Command Sergeant Major, United States Army Fire Center of Excellence in Fort Sill. Command Chief Warrant Officer 5, Kenneth Presley. Command Chief Warrant Officer, United States Army Fire Center of Excellence in Fort Sill. The Honorable Stan Booker, Mayor, City of Lawton, and his wife, Councilwoman Marion Hankins Booker. Brigadier General William Parker, Director, United States Army Air Missile Defense Cross-Functional Team. Colonel Mike Bearfield, Chief of Staff, United States Army Fire Center of Excellence in Fort Sill, and his wife Carrie. And our frontier friends, Brigadier General Retired Randall McIntyre, Colonel Retired Nate Slate, Mrs. Janie Billingsley, Mrs. Jennifer Waters, and Miss Rachel Smith. We would also like to welcome all of Colonel Henke's family members and close personal friends that are here to share in this very special occasion. Ladies and gentlemen, Major General Richard Harrison.
I came pretty quick in the agenda. I thought I had a minute to get myself together. Hey, welcome everyone. And first of all, before I get started, how about a round of applause for everyone who had a particular hand in putting together this great ceremony for the Henke family today. What a great ceremony. This would not have been possible without your hard work. And Now, as the narrator said, I'm Major General Richard Harrison. I command 32nd Army Air Missile Defense Command in El Paso, Texas for 2 more weeks. And then I'm heading on to another assignment here that I'm excited about as well too. But I'm seeing a trend here. When Glenn asked me to promote him to 1-star, of course I said yes. But I also promoted his predecessor, Commandant number 45. I was Commandant number 44. General King was 45. Now today I'm promoted to 46. I gotta start charging these guys for these promotion ceremonies. I am a cheap doggone thing, I guess. But thank you, Glenn, publicly for asking me to promote you. I'm truly honored. You've built on the legacy that commandants before us set for this great branch, and we're so proud to have you here. Again, I'm honored to put that star on the chest today. You are an amazing leader, and we got it right by selecting you. Now, Glenn didn't get here on his own. His family had a huge part of it. And if you know Glenn, his family definitely had a huge part of it. Because Glenn can go off on a tangent and chase a squirrel every now and then. He is distracted very well with his intellect and his deep dive into things. So Kathy has had to steer him straight to keep him on path. Fun fact, Kathy shared some stories with me upstairs prior to the ceremony. If you don't mind, I'll take about an hour today sharing, no, not an hour. I'll take about 5 minutes sharing with you a story that Kathy shared with me, how she met Glenn. I should say how Glenn met her. Glenn went to, and Kathy also, Seattle University, and Glenn was very frugal in college. And he, like he is today, is very smart in terms of how to save money. He said that buying a full entree was a complete waste of money. You should look at individual piece of that entree and buy it individually versus buying it all at one time, because you're not being a good steward of your own finances. Kathy, as you can imagine, thought that was pretty strange. Guy she never met, first time meeting him, and he's telling her about how to save money in college by not buying an entree. She still married him after all that. and I'm still shocked that she married you after that. But in one more encounter, they met. He was turning his uniform for ROTC at the end of the semester, and Kathy was there. And she said, so how'd you like this year? Or what'd you do this weekend? And he pointed to a t-shirt he was wearing from a concert that he had gone to and said, check this out. Luckily, Kathy overlooked that awkward moment from Glenn, and she still married him. They've been married now for 28 years, have been together for 31 years. So he has definitely married up, and she's the reason why he's here today. So how about a round of applause for Miss Kathy the Saint? Now, of course, Glenn's daughter's Tamsin, who is not here today. She is in class. She, just like her dad and her mom, she didn't want to miss class. This promotion is, compared to her studies, pretty small on her agenda, because she has aspirations of following her dad's footsteps and mom's footsteps, being successful. So she's going to watch the replay of this, but I wanted to say, really, thanks to you for being a great Army daughter, for doing all the things that you needed to do to make sure your dad was successful, so you today enjoy a piece of that little star. And for... Don't tell me. Sarah. I've been studying all night to get her name right, and I messed it up. So I'm doing mental push-ups right now, Sarah. But Sarah, thank you for being a great Army daughter, and thank you for moving again and again and buying more curtains than you can imagine, and having a bigger room every time you move to support your dad in this journey that he has to 1 star. So again, Glenn is here because of his great family, not all the work that he's done. So we wanted to recognize him. So how about a round of applause for his entire family? Now, Glenn was raised in Boise, Idaho. I've never met anyone in the Army from Boise, Idaho before until I met Glenn. And according to Kathy, that's the big city in Idaho. When I think of Boise, Idaho, I think of the movie of Richard Pryor. If you haven't seen it, Google it. But it's a pretty good movie about Boise, Idaho, where he bought a house, and everything that he thought he was getting in the house was taken out, because that's not in the contract. But Glenn, born and raised in Boise, Idaho, went to Seattle University and graduated in 1907. Was it 1907? Maybe 97, maybe that was it. Graduated in 1997 from Seattle University and started his career in the Army. Started out at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, in the 82nd Airborne Division as an Adventure Stinger platoon leader in the great 3rd Battalion, Airborne, 4th Air Defense Artillery Regiment. I say great because I commanded that battalion, and Glenn was my XO in that battalion, so we believe it was great. You may differ, that's okay. We both outrank you. Most of you. So at the end of the day, Glenn started out at a very tough assignment there at Fort Bragg in the 82nd Airborne Division. He did so well, Glenn was selected to be the aide-de-camp to the Chief of Staff of the 18th Airborne Corps, and he excelled in that duty because we know Glenn is very meticulous. So that Chief of Staff got the very best aide probably he's had in his career because Glenn is that good. So after that time, he served as the aide Chief of Staff. Glenn went on to the 1st Infantry Division, the Big Red One. Where Glenn deployed to Operation Falcon in Kosovo. He served as the operations officer for the Task Force Falcon. He was a battle commander there, and he went to OIR. So a combat-proven veteran, this young man is early in his career as a battle commander. After battle command, Glenn did some broadening assignments. He went to TRADOC, Training and Doctrine Command, and at that time, the office was in Virginia, Arlington. So he got a chance to go up and kind of taste some of the Northern Virginia, DC air and be a part of that. He served there as the Ballistic Missile Defense Capabilities Manager there in Arlington. After that, he went back to the 82nd Airborne Division to be the Chief of Future Plans. Now, if you can imagine, 82nd back in those days was pretty busy in Afghanistan at the time, and Glenn was their Chief of Future Plans in Afghanistan. So again, the 82nd chose this young man to be their future plans chief because he was that good. And we're so honored today to have him here. After that time, Glenn met this wonderful, striking, handsome young man you see in front of you today, me. I was Glenn's battalion commander in 3rd Battalion Airborne, 4th Air Defense Artillery Regiment, and he was my battalion XO. And I will tell you, Glenn was a remarkable XO. I did not have to worry about the command because Glenn was my deputy commander, my executive officer, second in charge. And in fact, I took command on a Friday, which I don't recommend. I deployed the following Wednesday, which I don't recommend. I took 250 soldiers with me, and Glenn had 700 soldiers back in Fort Bragg. So he had more of the battalion than I did. So it's really his battalion command. Actually, I just got credit for it. But he did a remarkable job, and Glenn was so professional that Glenn did not let the organization forget that I was still the commander. Although I'm thousands of miles away in the United Arab Emirates, Glenn let everyone know that I was still the commander. That's a professional that we're promoting today. Someone that, although I have bulk of the force here with me, I'm not the commander. General Harrison, well, back then, General Harrison, he's the commander. So Glenn, thank you for that, and thanks for commanding the battalion with me. I appreciate that. I'm here because of you. I had the pleasure before Glenn took command of 143 ADA, Cobra Strike Battalion. I officiated his change of command in Qatar with him and BJ Bennett. So Glenn and I have been around for a while together, and he's asked me to be a part of his ceremonies, and I'm honored today to continue that legacy. This time to put a star on your chest, or your shoulders in this case. But thanks again for asking me. I really enjoyed serving as your top-notch commander when you were a Cobra Strike 6 there in Qatar. So what a great job you did, again, deploying from his family, doing what the nation asked him to do, and doing it exceptionally well. So we're proud of you. Later on, he became the G3 of 32nd, the largest double AMDC in the free world. I got to make sure I tell the other two commanders, General King and General Costello, that my command is larger than theirs. So Glenn was the G3 of that great command, and later on became the deputy commanding officer of that great command. So he's had the grooming and the development to be where he is today. And he always put him in the right assignments in order to do that. So we're certainly happy. Glenn went on to command the 35th ADA Brigade in Korea. And as luck would have it, I'd work with Glenn again. I was the XO for General Abrams, the commander for USFK, and Glenn was the commander of 35th Brigade, and he did a remarkable job there. We had a lot of challenges with THAAD battery being there, and Glenn worked through those challenges with our North Korean neighbors, and did a tremendous job with that. And Glenn and I had a chance to work together. In fact, Kathy and the girls invited me over for dinner at the house, and I got a chance to see them in a social setting, so thank you again for a wonderful dinner. My family wasn't there in Korea, so it was a great time to be and to share your family there at Osan, and to go out to the Bill and buy some cheap purses. Don't tell my wife I said that. Authentic purses. Authentic for Korea, do it. But moving on, again, I really appreciate you going and asking me to do this ceremony for you, kissing ceremony. I got really 3, maybe 4 things I want to share with you before I get off the stage here. No one came to hear me today. They came to see me get promoted. But really, you're transitioning from tactical to strategic leader today. When you put that star on, you've been operating in that area, strategic leadership, been the Pentagon, been in places like that. But when you put the star on, you become a decision maker in that process. and you become that leader, the they that gets blamed for a lot of the things that goes on. You're becoming that they today, but I know we are confident you're going to do the right, make right decisions and do the right things as a chief leader in our Army, and particularly in our branch, at a critical time in our branch, and a critical time in our Army. So we got the person in the right place at the right duty to take care of that. Also, empower and develop your subordinates. It's incumbent upon you now to use that star for good and not evil. When people see the star coming towards them, make it a good, positive interaction. Oftentimes, it could be the first time they've seen a general, and it may be often their last time for a long time. So make it a positive interaction. And you have to give back to our branch. You are now growing the next generation of General Henkes and General Harrisons in our branch. So it's incumbent upon you to do that and take that duty very seriously. Next, I want to say, remain humble. At the end of the day, you're still Kathy's husband. Don't forget that, all right? So you're her plus one. She's your better half. So stay humble. No matter what rank you attain, at the end of the day, someone helped you get there. You got to remember that soldier out there in the foxhole who's doing what you asked him to do. And don't forget that he or she's counting on you to stay humble and not get so full of yourself. So, and the last thing I want you to say before I get off the stage is have fun. Man, you've earned that star today. Enjoy today, and really, really walk with your chest sticking out a little bit further, because you have achieved what started out in 1997. There were 4,000 lieutenants roughly that were commissioned in 1997 across the entire Army. Out of that 4,000, roughly 40 of them made it to Brigadier General. So when you think about the numbers and what you've accomplished, it's pretty darn good. Out of 4,000, 40 put on a star. And you have potential to put on multiple stars, and I'm predicting it today. So without further ado, now let's bring up the Henke family for the promotion of Brigadier General Glenn Henke to Brigadier General. Thank you.
At this time, Colonel Henke and his family will join Major General Harrison for the promotion. The President of the United States has reposed special trust and confidence in the patriotism, valor, fidelity, and abilities of Glenn A. Henke. In view of these qualities and his demonstrated potential for increased responsibility, he is, therefore, authorized and directed to wear the uniform and insignia of a Brigadier General by authority of the Secretary of Defense, effective 21 May 2025. When our Army began in 1775, general officers wore distinctive colored sashes indicative of their rank. In June 1780, George Washington issued an order that Brigadier Generals were to wear gold epaulets, each with a single silver star. Today, the General Officer Star remains the oldest rank insignia still worn by the officers of our armed forces. At this time, Brigadier General Henke's family replaced the shoulder boards and epaulets. The Brigadier General rank they are using to be handed down is from Major General Richard Harrison.
Now someone has to kiss him. I don't mind doing it, but I prefer Kat to do it. Make it official. All right.
The history of the General Officer's Belt dates back to World War II with an order by the Army Chief of Staff that the belt be issued to all general officers. The thick black leather belt with an 18-karat gold plated buckle and an imprint of an eagle was first produced in 1944. Today, the occasion and uniform which the belt is worn are at the discretion of the General Officer. At this time, Diana Pinion will present Brigadier General Henke with the General Officer Belt. Oh, sure, go right ahead. All right. We're going to undress him just to do the shirt now. All right, on to the sidearm. Since World War II, the Army has also issued each newly promoted general officer a sidearm for personal protection. The manufacturer of the Army Standard Service Revolver produces a special issue for general officers that has a slightly nicer finish and a serial number beginning with GO. At this time, Phil Henke will present Brigadier General Henke with his unloaded personal sidearm. Throughout the history of warfare, a general officer's personal flag has symbolized leadership on the battlefield. Command Sergeant Major Giancarlo Macri is uncasing the one-star flag, representative of an Army Brigadier General. First authorized by the War Department in August 1903, general officer flags were used by officers of the United States Army when making official visits to Navy vessels. In 1923, the use of the flags was further expanded to include automobile flags and field office flags. In 1947, the Deputy Chief of Staff for Personnel authorized all general officer flags except Medical Corps and Chaplain flags to be scarlet with white stars. The oath of office.
Raise your hand after me. I state your full name.
I, John Arthur Henke,
Have been appointed officer
have been appointed officer
in
in
the Army of the United States
the Army of the United States,
in the rank of Brigadier General.
rank of Brigadier General.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
to
to
support and defend
support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic.
that will bear true faith,
I'll bear true faith,
allegiance to the same,
allegiance to the same,
take this obligation freely,
take this obligation freely,
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion.
that I will well and faithfully discharge
And I'll well and faithfully discharge
the duties of the office
duties of the office
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Major General Harrison has deferred his presentation honors in honor of Brigadier General Henke's promotion. For the benefit of our distinguished guests who have not previously had the opportunity to observe the rendering of honors, it is appropriate that a brief explanation of the historical significance of this part of the ceremony be given. During this part of the ceremony, ruffles and flourishes will be played. The earliest use of ruffle and flourishes can be traced to the time of England's Lord Marlborough, who used kettle drums to announce his arrival. English colonists brought the tradition to the colonies during the French and Indian War, when 2 ruffles and present arms were given for Virginia's royal governor. In 1776, the Continental Army authorized a fife and drum unit to give 2 ruffles for a major general and 1 for a brigadier general. Current practice is to play ruffles equal to the number of stars a general officer possesses. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the presentation honors. The salute battery will fire 11 volleys in honor of Brigadier General Henke. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and distinct pleasure to present to you Brigadier General Glenn A. Henke. Wow. So this day finally happened. This is pretty incredible. It's a little bit surreal. General Harrison went through my bio, so there's more. Unfortunately, he didn't tell all of it, so that's good. But sir, I do appreciate you so much for doing this. I know that it was not easy for you to fit this in. For those who don't know, General Harrison is technically homeless right now. He gave up his quarters at Fort Bliss, moved out of the Pershing House, and he's fitting this in between something much more important than this event, which he's headed to Virginia tomorrow to supervise the marrying his daughter off to a fine young man. So, sir, from our family, yours, congratulations. Thank you so much for doing this. So here we are. The fact I'm still, up here serving after 28 years really seems kind of strange at times. The story Kathy told about what the plan was, that is a true story. We were looking at just doing 4 years, and that was it. You can go back to Seattle and ride that tech wave. Obviously, that is not what happened. So maybe this Army thing is going to work out for me after all. But now, for those who haven't been to ceremonies here at Fort Bliss, Fort Sill. You all stare at the CD. Sorry. Pretty much mandatory to include one of the Fires 50. And for those of you who don't know, the Fires 50 is a series of 50 sayings. And it's kind of tradition to include one of these because they have bits of wisdom in them, include them in part of the ceremony, usually at the end. So I'm going to break tradition a little bit and put it at the start of the ceremony. And on a day like today, I'm reminded of one in particular. And no, it is not number 23, which says, the higher up the flagpole you go, the more your ass shows. That's not the one I'm thinking of, although it's appropriate. No, the one that I'm actually thinking of the most of is number 12, which says, never take anything for granted. And as someone who's received much from so many, I cannot take anything for granted. As I prepared my comments, I didn't spend much time thinking about the places the Army sent me, the jobs I've done, or the many, many opportunities it's afforded, and which have been many, because there's just too many to mention. I've got photo albums, I've got stuff hangs on walls to remember all that. Like many of you do at these types of ceremonies, you thought about the people along the way. We are a people business, and that's true no matter what unit you're in. I've worn 19 unit patches with only 3 repeats, including the ones I'm wearing on both shoulders here today. Everything is about people. First starting with my bosses, officers, mentors who led me. Now, many of them have probably helped me in ways I will never truly know or appreciate. Some had to administer tough love sometimes, but what I try to remember is whenever those times came, I probably absolutely deserved it, and needed to do what they were telling me. So, the key to success, safety tip, do what your boss tells you, and you'll be fine. I'm here to tell you that works out pretty much true. I've obviously definitely spent a lot of time thinking about all the non-commissioned officers who helped me along the way. Now, Second Lieutenant Henke, in 1998, in my first few months as a platoon leader, was a bit of a shock because my first platoon sergeant did not live up to that ideal that I had built up. During the officer basic course, the answer to almost every hard question was, well, your first platoon sergeant will teach you that. That did not happen. But fortunately, there were so many more NCOs there. It was not just it was no way it could be a single point of failure because there were so many who were there. And that experience, what I found was the exception, not the rule. I've served with just hundreds and probably thousands of NCOs who just repeatedly demonstrate why we invest so much into this Corps. And they are the Army's competitive advantage and our superpower. I worked with exemplary first sergeants, command sergeants major, and all my positions, and every one of them shaped me. It's a huge reason why I'm here today. I've also spent a lot of time thinking about some of the soldiers. And they have probably taught me more than I can ever fully appreciate.
I work with remarkable young Americans choosing to serve their country, many at a time of absolute strife and wartime. As commander of Bravo 4388 in Germany and in Iraq, I had the same group of about 110 soldiers for almost 2 years because of stop move and stopwatch. So I got to know those soldiers better than I think any commander has had the opportunity. And it's hard not to think about them. And just all the hundreds of soldiers I've led in all sorts of positions. They're incredible people. One of the things I've learned along the way is make sure your first sergeant or your command sergeant major picks a really good driver because that'll make all the difference. They make the radios work. They, in the case of my driver in Iraq, you can memorize the MRE menu, which is so valuable. Like, hey, I'd like some M&Ms and lemon pounding. Which number is that? He was never wrong. And sometimes they might sit with you at a pharmacy, patiently explaining repeatedly why you're there, because you're recovering from a concussion from an airborne operation that happened. I didn't tell that first. But that's a true story. I got knocked out on a jump, but my driver was sitting there very calmly explaining to me again and again, what happened? But now, one of the surprises after I was commissioned was learning about a group of people called warrant officers. We didn't really talk about them in our ROTC, so it was a bit of a shock. Now, eventually I learned not to be wary, even though some try to intimidate a little bit. They know a lot, and although they try to cultivate an air of mystery, the trick is just to wear them down with questions. Make them explain everything. But I have learned the technical side of this military craft from them. And I'm always really very grateful. And I know now that when a warrant officer is trying to tell me something, I need to listen very carefully because I know that I need to understand what it is they're trying to teach me in that moment. Now, along the way, I've made friends who have enriched my service beyond measure. The best ones stick to you, even when you aren't in the same unit. And I'm pleased to say that some of them are here today. And I know that others are watching online. They supported me in my toughest days and cheered me on my best days. I hope I've been able to return the favor, and I want to thank you all for your friendship. For my family, starting with my parents, brothers and sisters, in-laws, and extended family, I do appreciate the fact that Army life can appear somewhat baffling from the outside. And I didn't really give you a choice on this journey. We just kept sending you our address and new phone numbers every time we moved. Remember landlines? But I do appreciate your patience, your love, and support, particularly as we dragged our daughters almost everywhere except the Pacific Northwest, except for one brief period. So thank you for that. As for my daughters, both here and online, I really admire the fact that you're both really tough Army kids. You've each had 4 elementaries, 2 middle schools, 2 high schools, and Search is on track to win the most schools contest if we move next summer. You've never complained for long. Now, Tandem's moved 10 times, not counting her current move up to the University of Washington, where she's studying computer science. And I expect Cersei will have 10 by the time you step into your college. Every time you set up a new room, after you argued who's going to get each room, you went to a new school, started making new friends, and then just did this all while being incredible students who worked so much harder than I ever did in high school. So you're both amazing. I love you both. I'm exceptionally proud. Now, got it. The reason I wrote it down, I'm taking a little bit of risk here by saving her for the end, but as General Harrison said, we've been together almost 31 years, been married for 28 years later this summer. We've had adventures beyond counting. You've stuck through 18 moves and counting. And that includes a few, plus a few lateral moves back and forth when you were in grad school early on. We visited 20 countries together, lived overseas twice, and hit almost all the United States. Still need to get you to Alaska and Rhode Island. We've also got to know very well several very long stretches of interstate, some more exciting than others. As one child like to ask, are we still in Montana? The answer is yes. You've been more patient with me than I deserve, and dealt with long absences, many miles on cars, driving folks around, and the general turbulence of this lifestyle. Here we are still having fun. So I love you, and I'm excited for every day we spend together. So I've had all sorts of jobs in the Army. Some are easy to explain, some are a little more complicated. Sometimes I've found the Army puts you exactly where you need to be at the exact right time you need to be there. And I think this is one of those jobs, and now is one of those times, as the Air Defense Artillery Branch undergoes our most significant modernization in our entire history. In 2005, when we were deactivating divisional short-range air defense battalions, there was many of us who had doubts about the future of this branch. That is not the case today. I'm proud to be here and be part of the work of the Fire Center of Excellence. So as I close my remarks, I have much to be thankful for. Fire Station number 12, never take anything for granted. Thank you, Mary Booker, for joining us today, and Ms. Councilwoman, thank you as well, and our Frontier friends, and for the unwavering support of this patriotic community that you provide to the soldiers and the families of Fort Sill. As you're fond of saying, this is some kind of wonderful. And thank you to everyone who helped put this ceremony together. This includes the Training Support Center staff, the Salute Battery, the Velvet Voice of Fort Sill Ceremonies, Mr. Marty Schmidt, and then the entire Fire Center of Excellence headquarters team who helped, and especially the Commandant's office team led by Command Sergeant Major Factory. This was incredible. Thank you for all for coming. So, as tradition, end with some of the sayings, which is first fire strong, be all you can be.
At this time, Second Lieutenant John Pavelchik from the Salute Battery is presenting Brigadier General Henke with a canister representing the first round fired in his honor as a general officer. I got you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the playing of the Air Defense Artillery March and the Army Song. Thank you for attending today's ceremony. Brigadier General Henke cordially invites you to a reception, which will begin shortly in the Air Defense Artillery Association, Building 747 on Geronimo Road. You may congratulate Brigadier General Henke and his family in front of the seating area. First to fire strong, be all you can be.